as a real estate agent, one of the skills that you have to develop is marketing. And that is an ever-changing field. Today in the studio, we have Greg DeKalb, like the city DeKalb, and we're going to be talking to him about marketing. How do you attract clients? How do you do more deals? So let's get started. If you're a real estate agent or a real estate investor, one of the most important things to build your business is marketing. Today in the studio, we have Greg DeKalb. That's the right way to say it, right?
Yeah.
And he happens to be an expert on marketing. For an agent, how do you find more clients, keep building your list? And for investors, how do we keep finding deals? So, Greg, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Andrew. It's a pleasure.
Definitely. So you, Tony, you guys are partners. You guys do this amazing networking thing for everybody watching. If you're not a part of it, definitely you guys should go. But let's talk about marketing, because today it's a crowded field.
Absolutely.
So
yes.
how do I stand out?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And I mean, you definitely have to try new things, but definitely you want to make sure that you're keeping up with social, email list, networking on a daily basis. I always say, always be networking all day, every day.
So when you talk about like an email list, right? When you talk about, let's start there, right? Because a lot of times the basics still work, but the key is consistency. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. So exactly. An email list could be, a lot of different things. So depending on who your target audience is and who you're trying to prospect and re-engage or what have you, yes, absolutely. As you're going about your day-to-day, you're doing your networking and whatnot, you're collecting all that information. You want to make sure that you're putting it into a CRM, and you want to have it backed up with a newsletter.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's like a lot of times, I know I feel that way, right? People are like, oh my God, Andrew, you have amazing marketing. I'm like, oh man, we suck. No, because you always look at somebody else, right? Especially with social media today. There's so many amazing marketers. And the topic comes up like, what do I say? What do I talk about every day? Do I talk about, and I always feel it's like the simple things. Like for an agent, for example, if you simply, since we happen to be in Chicago, you live in Naperville, right?
Right.
Every person that lives in Naperville or wants to live in Naperville and surrounding areas, right? Guess what they're concerned with? They want to know what are the home values doing. They want to know what the rate's doing. They want to know what things are selling for, right? And simple things and go in depth, right? You could put out that message day in, day out, and you're never going to run out of the audience. Would you agree?
I would completely agree, and I would take it. I would to piggyback on that. Yeah, absolutely. So think about the questions that your clients ask you whenever you're showing a home or what have you. Okay, you need to make a mental note, right? Okay, if they're asking that question, there's probably a ton of other people that have that same question on their mind. I'll give you an example. So whenever I was looking at a new home, right, our main concern was the school system. Right. So, and I think that an agent that is working within a certain community or whatnot, they need to find out what really makes that community something special, And for us, we were looking for that right school system, and we found that community, and that was the driving decision behind our home purchase.
Right. And that's so important, right? It's what are the types of homes that are selling? What has happened with appreciation in the last 2 years, 4 years, 5 years, right? You could literally and a lot of times, this is like, you've heard, there's no dumb question, right? And especially whenever people are coming into that space, there is no dumb question, right? A simple thing like, oh, my interest rates are high. Should I be buying? Interest rates are low. Should I be buying? I have equity in my house. Should I be refinancing? Right? What was the highest price home sold in Naperville? What is the cheapest price? I mean, like literally things that we think are the silliest things. Yet, if you look at, especially as it comes to real estate marketing, right? Some of the best people that at least I've seen on YouTube, I've observed, they're talking about the community they live in, they like to serve, they're talking about stats. And guys, listen, statistics, the beauty of statistics when it comes to real estate is, don't lie about it, but pretty much it's almost impossible to be wrong, right? All you do is take the stats literally from the MLS, literally from Zillow, repeat it, and even source the code. Right? Where did you get the stats? Oh my God, I got it, Realtor.com. I got it here. I got it there. Show a headline, right? So you guys do newsletters, right? Can you talk more about that? Because a lot of times, I know we struggle with this. which is, what do I say in a newsletter? Do I have to be that profound?
Yeah, no, and you don't have to be that profound, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to tap into people's emotions that are actually causing them to make that buying decision, right?
Right.
Like you were saying, everybody has access to this MLS. Everybody knows like the home appreciation and everything. What they don't know is that community. Right. And that's what they're really leaning on the realtor to help them understand. Okay. Another example of whenever we purchased our home, I wanted to be close proximity to a golf course.
Right.
And so these are driving factors that may not be obvious to the real estate agent because they're looking from the lens from a business mind, right?
Right.
Okay, would I buy this property? Is it going to appreciate? How much is all these different numbers, right? Well, that's all kind of figured out. That's table stakes, right?
Sure.
But it's the intangibles and figuring out, okay, what is the really driving factor behind these people's decision to make that purchase or to come to that community? And by exploring that community and understanding, okay, wow, this is a great competitive advantage. They got a great school system, or hey, they got a great golf, course, or like you were saying, the serving in the community.
Right.
What are the Lions clubs and these different organizations? What are they like? What's the chamber like, right? So this is an opportunity for a real estate agent to really stand out. They can go into the community, they can understand this information, and then they can pass it along in the newsletter. Hey, see what's happening? We're having this community parade or whatnot, and create that image and help people get placed in that community.
And easy thing to steal. I mean, if you look at any sort of news, anything today, right? It'll never be that like, since today it's Donald Trump, right? Donald Trump is doing something sane. It'll always be one crazy factor they're going to pull out, right?
Right.
80% immigrants gone by 2025. It's like, what are you talking about, right? I mean, we all know it's an insane headline, but guess
Right.
what it does? Oh my God, this guy's crazy. Oh my God, I love Donald Trump. Doesn't matter. If
Yep.
you like the guy, if you hate the guy, what does it make you do? It makes you react, right? And it's no different that North Naperville values up by 22%, right? Now, it may be in a subdivision. I'm not saying lie, right? But yet, to be an effective marketer, you're grabbing attention.
Right.
Would that be correct?
That's absolutely the first thing you got to do is grab their attention, and you have to say something kind of outlandish, right?
A little bit. And yet you have to stay within code of ethics, right? I mean,
Right.
nobody's saying that, but yet understand that what makes us act, right? If Naperville was number one suburb or number two suburb, right? Guys, everybody knows it, but guess what? If you're one of the ones that you all the time put it up, you may not be selling a lot of houses, and we're talking about agents, but suddenly guess what happens? Oh my God, did you see that, Judy? She's always posting. She's always talking about Naperville. Suddenly, you literally go from a zero to the person that knows Naperville, right? And we're just using Naperville as an example.
Yeah.
This could be literally any suburb, right? And so what about the frequency? How often?
Yeah. So we put out our newsletter once a week.
Once a week.
Yeah,
Okay.
but that's because we're constantly doing new events every week,
Sure.
right? But you want to do a minimum probably once a month, I would say.
Minimum once a month.
minimum
I
once
think
a month.
I go with you, man, which is once a week, because for an agent, and I know agents are busy, right? But guys, once a week, even if you take half an hour, right, and structure it from headline, which is called the hook, right, and then something behind it, which is the meat, and literally, if you take some basic things like Zillow, Redfin, Realtor.com, some of the bigger, city data, some of the bigger websites,
Yep.
and take their headlines. If you just copy paste that, even I'm not saying copy paste it, right? But use a little bit of AI. But at the end of the day, there's no new information, right? You're going to pull the data from somewhere, just give it credit, but you're saying it in your words.
Right.
And that is what has power.
That is what has power. And what you'll do is you'll go on, you'll see that nice headline that got your attention, that speaks, proudly of the community that you're supporting and what have you. And then, it's as simple as going into ChatGPT and saying, expand upon this, throwing some statistics, throwing in your own connotation there. And
Right.
next thing you know, you got a newsletter.
You got news. And a lot of times people think that, oh my God, I didn't sell the house. You don't have to say I sold the house, right? You're saying a house was sold for X amount, right? That basements are getting this much return in this area, right? That's knowledge. If you know 2% more than the other person, guess what? You're knowledgeable. And that's the information you share. And the more you share, the more ideas that will strike you.
Yeah, because it's not necessarily about moving that one piece of property that you have, right? You got to support the community.
Correct.
And you may not be the one to sell the house that particular time, but you're doing right by the community, and that will pay dividends.
Correct. And you see that whenever somebody, an agent, is really an expert, they take pride in the community they live in. They love serving the people. And this has nothing to do with price range, right? There are some people who I would consider great marketers, right? Blue Island happens to be in terms of pricing, a lower price community. But we have Alex Corona over there, right? Everything he does is blue. I mean, literally, and he makes fun of himself, like almost like self-deprecation, and that's his thing, man. I'm blue, right? And in Blue Island, it happens to go with it, but he's consistent. If he goes to eat, he'll give a plug to the restaurant. If he does any single thing in his day, guess what he's doing? He's always, and he's not plugging himself. He's plugging other people by elevating them, but yet guess who's the source of it?
Well, and that's kind of the magic of social media, right?
Right.
Is when you go in there and you plug somebody else, they're proud to share it.
Correct.
You know, like one of the things that we do whenever we're having events is we make sure to always have a special guest.
Sure.
Okay. The reason being is because obviously we want to provide more value, have a better experience, but we know whenever we create that marketing around that special guest, what are they going to do?
Right.
They're going to go out
They're
and
gonna-
share it
absolutely.
and sing our praises. So it's not just coming from us.
Right. No, that's very, very true. And then when you do a newsletter, is there a particular type of format you use? How do you, because for agents, a lot of times, they may not be necessarily the most tech-savvy people, right? Where do you create it? And then how does it go in an email?
Yep. No, great question. So the first thing I would recommend in terms of just getting a newsletter started is going on LinkedIn and doing that.
Okay.
So it's a very simple format, a quick search, and you can do a newsletter in 5 minutes on LinkedIn.
No kidding. Even I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Really?
And what's nice about it, when the first time you do it, your whole network gets to see it.
Oh, wow,
So
okay.
that first newsletter does have to be pretty powerful. So, but at any rate, once you get a little bit of a following going, then you can make that decision. Okay, do I want to make this, more of a formal format, like with a MailChimp, right? One of your bigger players out there with all the features and functionality and things like that.
And MailChimp is a great platform because it's there's no cost to it initially, right? And then there's a very, very minimal cost, right? You're not going to have 50,000 people on a list. You're going to have a few hundred to maybe a couple thousand. And the cost is, literally less than a cup of coffee.
Exactly. And it's going to keep you organized, and it's going to keep all of your potential prospects. It's going to keep them in the know. You're going to be top of mind, what have you. And it may not be because they need to purchase a home at that point. You could hit them at the right time whenever they were just in a conversation with a friend.
Right.
And they can easily refer you. But it's about being top of mind. And it also separates you from a lot of people in the fact that it's professional.
Right. And you know what the best part about it is, right? That for marketers, they know that, but open rates, right? You can literally start seeing open rates based on your headline. Sometimes you'll have the lamest headline and wow, a lot of people open, right? And you're like, man, I thought this was so bad, but yet, and then sometimes you're like, oh my God, that's such a great headline, and it'll just bomb. Right, and it's shocking what people are interested in, and sometimes the ones we think are the worst, people love it, right? But it's the consistency of messaging that it goes out every time. And if you do it with consistency and you miss a week, guess what? People are like, hey, are you okay? How come I didn't get it, right?
You'll get the check-in call.
No, I literally, early on when we started Chicago Real Estate Investor Association, at 2 o'clock in the morning, I would get pissed. Contractor would go crazy. Something would happen. Crazy would happen. At 2 o'clock, I would start typing spelling mistakes, grammatical thing. I'm just all pissed, right? I'm thinking at a faster, literally, and I would send out emails to thousands of people that were all messed up, but I was passionate about it, about the topic. And people would be like, oh my God, I love it. And 2 English teachers would always respond. Andrew, if you need help, please let us know. Well, guess what I did, right? I was so excited about what I was sharing, right, that people respond, right? And then once we actually started spelling everything, like, oh, Andrew is not writing emails anymore, right? What happened to those crazy? And because that was the shtick, right? And I was being honest with it. That if I'm pissed about something, I'm kind of writing, oh my God, this deal went bad, this happened, but then people get hooked in.
Well, there's definitely a psychology behind it.
Right.
It's a self-deprecation, right? When you kind of make a joke about yourself so that you kind of lower the tension in the room
No,
and it's not as serious and it's
yeah.
authentic. So same thing with emails. You know, people will put misspellings in an email on purpose just to have that
have that,
authenticity
right.
to it. Yeah.
And nobody's saying if that's not you, right? If you're really
Yeah.
good at your syntax, you're really good at sentence formation, please use that, especially today, right? But what my point is, if you're authentic and if you're all the time, and with marketing, we all know great marketers where you keep seeing this stuff come up. Oh my God, this is fraud. Oh my God, I hate the guy. Oh my God, he's here all the time. And then you're like, maybe I agree with 1 point. Maybe I agree with 2. Right? Suddenly you show up at their events. You show up, but guess what? They're on your mind. They're top of mind all the time, and you end up giving them business.
Yeah.
Right? And that's a psychology that you have to understand. You want to be a great marketer.
And we're talking about marketing in terms of getting in front of people, but the other piece of it, you were touching on this a little bit earlier, is the analytics. So if you're using something like MailChimp, yeah, you see the open rates, you see what people are responding to, you see who's engaging with your messaging. And if people are engaging with your messaging and you know that, then those are the people that are in the market for what you have to offer.
Correct.
So it helps you spend your time and energy on who you should be focusing on to do like that, maybe that phone call or maybe that mailer that you put out or something along those lines.
And it's the easiest thing to do is just literally pick up any of the bigger real estate publications. If they're talking about foreclosures, you talk about foreclosures in DuPage County. You talk about foreclosures in Naperville. You talk about foreclosures around Naperville. You talk about, and you're just taking that kind of what is going on in the news, in the media, right, in politics. How does it relate to people's lives in Naperville? Because people, all they care is tell me about me, right? And if I'm telling you about you or the area you live in, guess what? I'm interested.
Exactly. It's about positioning yourself as a thought leader and developing that credibility.
Got it. So you guys have developed this great platform with the whole networking thing. You talk about it. You teach that. If people want to get in touch with you, how do they do that?
Yeah, so I would say follow us at Tony P's Networking Events. .com is our website, and then it's our handle for
TonyPNetworking.com.
Tony P's with an S.
Oh, Tony P's
Networking Events.
Events.com.
Yep.
Right? And they do the events all the time in and around Chicago. Today happens to be an event in the office here, right? So guys, definitely plug in. This has been great. And please share, please like. And this is Andrew Holmes from Cashflow for Life. Talk to you soon.